Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bored and Annoyed. I'm Jackson.
And I am home at the movies.
And this week is going to be a little different. We're not going to deal with news because I'm actually on vacation.
Ooh, it's like the ghost of Jackson.
Yeah.
Bored and Annoyed.
So this week we're just going to kind of have a general discussion regarding a couple things we've watched on Netflix and Amazon, and just, kind of talk about the general consensus seems to be that streaming services are now like overtaking movies even as people's favorite form of entertainment.
Right.
Not necessarily the two of us at this table, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty complex conversation to have.
Right.
I mean, it feels like with streaming, it opens up formats that are not available on traditional TV, and also not really, I mean, they're available in movies, but you're flexible with what you can do.
Right, and I think it's totally changed TV and as well, even like shows I like I wish I could just stream Westworld all at once like you did, but I don't have the patience to wait.
Right.
And it's definitely changed the conversation regarding, we've talked about this before, the water cooler talk.
Yes.
I mean, it's no longer you come in on Monday and discuss the big episode of whatever from the night before.
It's like the whole argument of like what it was back in the day was like broadcasting. You tried to find the biggest. It was appealing to the lowest common denominator, so you could get the biggest amount of people watching your show, so you could sell the most ad revenue. Now it's narrowcasting, where everybody is. It's all niche markets now.
Right, it's true.
And so that's really interesting. Is everybody has their show or a couple of shows that are their thing.
Yep. And they've targeted, people who like action. They've targeted like the sci-fi folks. They've targeted women big time.
Right.
With certain shows. I think it's good overall.
Yeah.
I mean, we get a bunch of TV. The thing I don't understand is how they're necessarily making money on some of these shows.
Right.
I think about the budget for some of these Netflix shows, and it's crazy. You watch it and you're like, did someone just purchase Netflix because this show was available?
Right.
Like, how many subscribers do each of these shows net for the company?
Right. And Netflix is very protective of their algorithm and their data and all of that.
Understandably so, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd say they're the king of streaming.
Yes.
So...
Well, even with Amazon, it's even worse because they give it away as part of the Prime subscription, which gets you 2-day free shipping on everything. Right. I buy everything on Amazon.
Yep.
But like 80% of people don't use the video service. So they're spending a bunch of money on these shows. I mean, I know like Tin Star, which we're going to talk about, that was actually, I believe, a BBC show that they picked up.
I noticed that when I Googled it before I actually started watching. I was like, what the fuck? I thought this was an Amazon show.
Yeah, so I think it was all aired at once on some station. Right. I don't know. But yeah, that one they picked up, but they've got originals like The Man in the High Castle. I mean, that's like that's a crazy show with different effects and a huge cast.
Right.
And it's just like, what is this really doing to bring in more people to your,
Right. Well, I mean, I know personally, Netflix became a must purchase for me because of Daredevil.
There you go.
And that was immediately, that was before all of like this Marvel Netflix shit is, and now Stranger Things is like why I won't get rid of it.
Well, right. But couldn't you just like cancel it?
I could.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of bizarre.
But it's one of those things where I watch so little like live TV at this point that it's like, I hate going back to ads.
Oh, it's so true. You bring up a good point, though. Like, it brought you in with those shows, right?
Yep.
So what are they going to do once they've gotten every niche group to sign up for their service?
Right. Well, they can't keep those shows going,
True. So
forever, indefinitely. Yep. So you have to come up with something new.
Yeah.
Because I know Stranger Things, I believe the creators, the Duffer Brothers, said that they're only doing 4 seasons.
Okay.
So
Good. It won't get stale then.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's my whole point. That's actually my point about TV in general is like it's kind of nice that's another thing that streaming has opened up in that you don't have to get to syndication to become successful or
That's
viable.
true.
So now shows don't have to overstay their welcome like
Right, well-
Friends kind of did and stuff like that.
Yep, correct. Well, I don't know if The Walking Dead is necessarily in syndication, but they have overstayed their welcome.
They're definitely in syndication at this point. What is it, 7 seasons?
I suppose. I think I've seen them on like the CW and
Yeah.
stuff. You're right.
So, I mean, in that regard, it's nice.
Yeah, and not even just that. I think it's nice with TV to be able to just blast through some of this stuff. I think it makes it so they can do some more complicated plots.
Right.
Because stuff like Westworld, it's like if I were to wait a few weeks between episodes or whatever, I would come back and be like, shit, well, I either need to rewatch the whole thing
Yes.
or I need to give up.
Which
Whereas
is-
now you can just, I mean, like Dark, can you imagine watching that?
Oh,
If you couldn't,
It's redefined the narratives that are possible, which is nice.
Right.
And it also, in that regard, has sort of changed how you look at old TV shows too. Because like if an old TV show shows up on Netflix and you start watching it and you try to binge it and you're like, I don't like this. Well, you're not meant to binge it. It wasn't designed. You were supposed to get a weekly dose.
Correct.
So that's
yeah.
part
So
of it.
like I think when I think of that, I think of like NYPD Blue or Law and Order or something,
Right.
where every episode like you could come in the middle of a season,
Right.
and watch an episode. And sure, there's a few character things that are kind of continuing from episode to episode, but generally it's all these self-contained stories,
Right.
And I feel like. Shout out to my favorite show, 24, kind of was the one that really like opened up the entire concept of binging the hell out of something.
Right.
Because that was a Fox show, but it was like, if you missed one episode, you're screwed.
Right.
And it's funny because speaking of syndication, I've turned that on, like it's been on syndication, and I've turned it on and I'm like, how do they even use this in syndication? You can't just watch a random episode.
Right,
It's
yeah.
literally like you're missing the whole point of what's going on.
Right. Absolutely. But, add money. You got to get it.
It's true. It's just bizarre. I got to imagine that just fails in syndication. I mean, unless there's people that are like, hey, I've never watched it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to start DVRing
Right.
whatever channel has it on for 4 hours twice a week. you
Right.
know?
Well, like these old sitcoms, they are perfectly designed for syndication.
Correct.
Like Seinfeld, you can pop that on anytime,
Yep.
any episode. There's barely any context for any episode.
No, you don't need it. There's none.
Yeah.
Right. Shit, you can't even half the time if it wasn't for just the way the characters got older and changed like hairstyles and stuff, you wouldn't
Right.
even know what season it's from.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Well, to the keen-eyed
Right.
observer like myself,
That like, oh, Susan's dead.
yeah,
So
I know where this is. Or you look at like the camera quality.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But other than that, yeah.
How do you think it affects the film industry regarding getting people off their asses and off their couches to come, to the theater? Because first of all, there's entertaining movie quality shows that
Yes.
they have access to 24/7, 365.
Right.
And they know that if there's a movie that they kind of want to see, it'll be available for free to stream within, 6 months in
Yes.
many cases.
Yeah, in many cases you're correct. I don't know if you've noticed this. So Disney has a deal with Netflix where they get basically all of their movies
Sure.
to the streaming. Now that ends in 2019 when I believe Disney is going to try and have their own streaming network, which is why, and I'm going to come back to your point about how that affects movies, but I find this interesting. Like I was saying last week about the saturation, or 2 weeks ago, about the saturation of the streaming service, because now DC has or DC. Yeah, DC.
DC, aren't they coming out with like their own streaming
Yeah,
service?
yeah, it's just DC content. So it's like the old Superman movies, and like there are going to be new live action shows that they're putting on there. And it's like, not everybody needs their own streaming service.
Yeah, I suppose.
So I don't know. It's very strange. It's very strange that that's happening. But getting back to what you were saying about movies, you're right. It's like if you know that movie's going to come out in 6 months, and they're actually trying to close that window in between release and streaming now.
Right.
So
So there's some stuff like the smaller movies, maybe ones that don't make it, and nationally across the country into theaters or whatever. Like
Yeah.
you can stream the same day that they release the movie. Like
Yeah.
I know DirecTV's been involved in producing some stuff, and I guess this isn't streaming technically, but it's on demand.
Right.
Yeah. While it's in theaters.
It's in the same ballpark.
right. Yeah.
It's strange because I feel like with Netflix, a lot of the time I can almost feel how good of the quality of the film is based on how quickly it gets to streaming. Because if it's bad, they tend to just get it on there right away.
Get it. Yeah. Put
We
it
got to
out.
get that money back.
Well, that's like what was the Cloverfield movie?
Yeah.
It was originally planned on being like a real movie,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And then they were like, well, fuck it. Let's just make a deal with Netflix.
Exactly.
But like that's a good example. So Netflix has to think that somehow nets them more revenue, correct? I mean,
Right.
so they think whatever they spent on that,
Right.
they think, oh shit, like a bunch of people will sign up to watch the new Cloverfield. I mean, it's either that or it just gets people talking about Netflix, and then that's
Right.
what, you know what I mean?
Well, and you got to wonder. I don't know if they're collecting data on people, but I do wonder if they are collecting data on like people's viewing habits.
Oh, they certainly know where you live, what time you watch Netflix,
Yeah.
what types of shows you watch, what your age is. Well,
See, I throw that
I guess they know the age of the person who owns the account.
Yes,
you
but
know
they
what I'm
don't
saying?
know. Yeah, they don't know everybody who's. But I'm sure that information probably isn't in the digital age with everybody having a Facebook or Twitter. That's not hard to get.
That's true. And they can probably figure out what your age and sex and religion is just
Yep.
by, he watches these shows.
Yes.
He must be male, Caucasian,
Yep.
25 to 35,
Yep.
lives in his mom's
Yeah,
basement.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I look at something okay, this is an aside, but I really freaking hate that Netflix got rid of the 5-star rating system and it's just thumbs up and thumbs down.
It's ridiculous. Apparently, it has a lot to do with this Amy Schumer stand-up that came out.
Did you see that, by the way?
No, I heard it was the worst thing ever.
It's so bad.
Yeah, so it got like just blasted with 1-star reviews, and they think that people were like, basically just hate her,
Yeah.
politically or whatever. So they were just going on there and giving 1-star reviews. But from what I've heard, it legitimately was awful.
Well,
So-
and it was really bad. I only watched it because I thought it was terrible. I'm not a big Amy Schumer fan.
yeah, me neither.
But I've seen a couple of her things. I'm like, well, she can be funny sometimes.
There was that movie that had LeBron in it. Oh God, what was that called? Anyways, biggest Amy Schumer movie, I think, so far. That was pretty funny. And if I knew the name of it, I'd be more useful to the audience. But
Trainwreck?
Yes, that was
that
it.
it?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I watched it because I heard it was terrible. Now, I didn't want to hate it.
You were just interested in...
Yeah. So I'm like, right there, you guys got me interested. Like shit tons
There you
of,
go.
but like this thumbs up, thumbs down. So I mess with that a little bit because like I'm an anime fan, but Netflix has some of the worst anime you'll ever find. And anime is like I feel like it's like most things. Like you listen to music and you're like, oh, I like this. And then Spotify sort of plays you like the similar artists.
Sure.
And you're like,
Yeah.
this isn't good. This isn't good. And it's like 90% of whatever you like is crap. And there's that 10% that's like really well made. And
Right.
you're like, Netflix gets all the crap animes. They're just the worst. So I just go through, I'll watch 5 minutes of the show and thumbs down it because I'm like, nope, this is garbage. It's all exposition in the first 5 minutes. You don't have me interested in the characters. Fuck you, I'm done.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
have you noticed any effect on what it's showing you based on that?
no, because it still gives the like 99%.
Yeah. What does that even mean? Do you even understand? Like,
All
what does
I know-
any of this mean?
All I know is that number is fucking rigged for all of their original content.
That makes sense.
Because it's like, this is a 97% interest. I'm like, I've never watched a reality show.
Right. Yeah.
I don't get that. But the movie stuff is really interesting because now, like, there are, like you said, original movies coming, like Cloverfield. There was that Bright movie with
I didn't
Will
even watch
Smith.
that yet.
I thought it was quite terrible.
Okay.
it's one of those ones where there are people who like it. It's dumb fun. I'm like, it's not a well-made movie, and it's not well told. It's from the director of Suicide Squad.
Now, is it as bad as the critics were saying when it dropped? I mean, I know there were some people saying it was like the worst movie of the year and whatever.
I don't know if it was the worst movie of the year, but it was when it wasn't bad, it was bland.
Okay.
So I'd say it was pretty fucking bad.
Okay.
If they had the star rating, I'd give it like a 1.5 star.
Okay, so it's not like a half star.
No, it's not a half star. It's not like there was some bad. You got to see it. It's not.
I'll
good.
watch it. It's their most watched thing, I think.
I don't get it at all.
It's Will Smith, man.
Yeah, Will
They
Smith
spent $100 million on it, I think.
I heard 80.
80. Oh, okay. I mean, still.
But yeah, it was easily the most expensive movie to come to streaming, and they're
Right.
making a sequel, which is now setting a precedent for it's not just small indie movies and things that can't find distributors. It's now blockbusters are coming.
How much money is Amazon going to be spending on this Lord of the Rings series?
I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing they'll spare no expense. I would imagine.
I would hope so. I would hope that they spared no expense. Sorry. Jurassic Park.
They will.
Jackson knows this. I texted him the other day saying, I tried watching 2 and 3. They're both terrible in different ways.
Yeah, well, yeah, they are. They are both terrible and different. I still say 2's worse because Spielberg thought he was making something good.
The thing about 2 is that it's got way better cinematography, and I feel like Spielberg knows how to tell a story better.
Yes.
The beginning is...
Well, it has a story.
It has a story.
3 really doesn't have much of a story.
The beginning is vastly superior to the beginning of 3, because Ian Malcolm has to go to the island to save his girlfriend. And Dr. Grant has to go to the island because money.
Yeah, well, those William H. Macy and Tia Leone needed him to get that stupid kid that parasailed onto the island because they let boats take people parasailing right next to the dinosaur island.
And the special effects seem so much worse in the third one. Now, I'd
have to watch it again. I don't know about that because
I
would assume they are worse.
The animatronics were worse. That's for sure on that one. And even in the second one, the special effects were shockingly worse at certain points.
Yeah, I would believe it.
Well, because they kept on putting the dinosaurs in daytime and like right up, kind of medium
they
shots.
They got cocky.
Yeah. It was like you noticed when they did it in the daytime, a lot of it was it's far away and or it was a prosthetic. It was a animatronic,
right?
So
it was a prosthetic.
Yeah, it was a prosthetic. It was a man in a prosthetic suit.
Yeah,
but like those people who put on the Tyrannosaurus suits and dance around with the heads that are just bob around.
Right.
Yeah, I love that shit.
But yeah,
getting back to streaming and TV.
Well, I know you had mentioned you just brought up anime.
Yeah,
I know you had mentioned you'd watch something. Is there an anime show or something that?
Yeah. So since this is our TV episode, we're just going to throw out things that we watched and suggestions that we had. So I've been, I don't want to say disillusioned with anime for the last few years, but I feel like there's been a lack of quality as far as the genre goes. So when everybody was like, "Oh, My Hero Academia is a great show," I'm like, "Yeah, is it? Or is it just, the new thing?"
This is a Netflix?
No. This is you'd have to go to Funimation, that's an all anime streaming service.
There you go. There's another one.
It's another
you
one.
got DC, you got your anime.
Yep. It's insane.
Disney.
It's kind of insane to me because now you got to pay $10 a month for basically 2 shows that you want to watch.
Okay.
For every
now, do
2
these
shows.
air somewhere else and then end up there, or are they original content?
So what happens with My Hero Academia is it airs in Japan, and I don't know how they're doing this, but it's basically airing the same time in English, like it shows up on the streaming service, available in English, like not subtitled, dubbed. So that's kind of crazy because it used to be you'd have to wait years before.
No, so now they've got a quick quick inside track on their American fans, so they make sure they're both prepared at the same time. They release it in Japan, and at the same time they put it on whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So all of the world fandom is in the exact same spot, which is insane to me. So yeah, what happens, it airs in Japan, goes on the streaming service at the same time, and then Cartoon Network has their sort of standard Toonami block that they do on Saturdays, and that's seasons behind. It's in season 1, and the show is on season 3 currently. But premise of this show is that superpowers have become common practice. It's basically like our world, like a modern setting, and superpowers have become common. 80% of the population has superpowers.
Okay.
And what happened because of that is people decided to become superheroes. So now superheroes have like their own like agencies, and there are schools that are designed to like train you if you want to become a like government sponsored professional hero. You go to this school, you can get a hero license,
like Elastigirl.
Yeah.
Only she was like television show sponsored.
Yeah. And I found that kind of interesting because it's like, oh wow, Japan is really getting influenced sort of by the Western superhero. So that was interesting to me. But then I watched the show, and the animation is really fluid. It's some of the best animation I've seen. The intro songs are catchy as hell. They're kind of like this. It's kind of like, I would say, 90s pop punk.
Okay.
Which is like, I was into the pop punk for a while, so I'm like,
what would that be, like a Green Day?
Like yeah, closer to
Sum 41 type shit.
Closer to Green Day than say like Fall Out Boy, I would say.
Okay.
But you've got that, so that was nice. And they've got this interesting character. You follow this character named Izuku Midoriya, and he was not born with a superpower. And his favorite superhero is like, they also have superhero rankings. His favorite hero is the number 1 hero, guy named All Might. They call him the symbol of peace.
Okay.
And he's like a fusion between like Captain America and Superman. Like they really invoke a lot of that iconography, red, white, and blue. Standard muscle man does the hands on the hips pose, talks real mighty, and yes. Right. And it's great. And they really play it up for jokes, and it's really quite funny. But he finds out that this All Might can only have his superpowers for like 2 to 3 hours a day now because of a huge battle he had with a villain. So like he lost like all of like his like internal organs, or most of his internal organs. It's crazy. And you find out that this is like the only superpower in the world that can be passed on, and All Might passes it on to Izuku Midoriya. So a kid who's never had superpowers, but he's like a fanboy.
Sure.
He's idle. Like he's got a little notebook.
It's like if I woke up one day and I could run like Barry Sanders when I was like 15 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Yeah, Barry Sanders comes to your house and he says, "Jackson, you now have the power.
You run. Yeah, go run for the Lions."
Yes. But yeah, so because of that, because he was not born with this power, he has to like sort of train his body to get used to the power. And because of that, every time he tries to use it, like he'll like use, it's kind of like a standard anime thing, like I have to use 5% of my power or whatever. So he starts out using it, and the first time he uses the power, he jumps really high to like defend a girl, breaks his legs because of the jump, because his body cannot sustain the pressure, punches the robot that's attacking the girl, and breaks like his entire arm.
So the show is like him trying to get used to having these powers,
and then sort of going through this world, and he's sort of like your identifying figure, and you travel through the world with him.
It sounds like something if it wasn't anime and it was just like a movie.
Yeah.
Like if you did a Superman movie like this.
Right.
It sounds like it could be interesting.
It's really quite good.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I like about it the most is so hero and being a hero is like the central theme of the show.
Okay.
And they do something that I never really even thought about from a narrative perspective, but here in the West, we're always like, we got to have the Martin Luther King, we got to have the Malcolm X, we got to have the Magneto, the Professor X.
Yep.
They have ideologically very different. Nobody is like yin and yang. It's like, this is one ideological group. This is another. This is another.
Bunch of them.
And there's a bunch of them. And they don't always finish. Like a battle may finish, but maybe that villain doesn't go to jail, or they're not killed. They're still out there. Right. So you get conclusions, but they're not finales. And that's kind of interesting because you still have a lot of story potential left open. So it's just really good.
It sounds like you'd recommend it.
I'd absolutely
Is it
recommend
something
it.
that I should look at, even not being an anime guy, or is there somewhere else you would start if you were going to...
If I were to start you on an anime, which we have been talking about for a while,
Yes.
because Jackson is not an anime fan.
No.
And there's one that I think you'd really quite like because it's very, very story-based, which is Death Note. It's very dark.
Death Note.
Death Note.
And where can I see Death Note?
That one is on Netflix. Now, I did say that Netflix has a shitty
but there's
anime.
probably, there's...
They have like two of the best anime of all time, which is Death Note and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. They're available on streaming. So those would be the ones that I would recommend first because those are like my top, I don't know, they're in my top 2 or 3.
Well, maybe I have already watched them on the airplane.
That would be sweet. You come back and you're like, that
They're
show is
fucking terrible,
yeah,
Alex.
Right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this isn't like one of my favorites of all time, but it's very well made.
Yeah, okay, I'll check it out.
I would put it in like top, I don't know, probably top 10 animes of all time, though, which it's pretty high up
And
there.
you're still working on it, right? Or did you finish it?
Well, the show is still going.
It's still going.
So,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, and that's why I say like it's a tentative like top 10 because it could go to shit.
Right.
But currently, it's really impressive. Yeah, I would recommend it. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we tackled something you watched this morning. Actually, I watched a movie called How It Ends.
Okay. Now, who's in that?
This is a Netflix original.
Okay.
It has Theo James, who was in the Divergent movies. That's the only place I recognized him from. I've seen the first Divergent movie. Don't
Okay.
give me too much shit here. And then it's got Forrest Whitaker.
Okay.
And basically, the plot is the movie starts out with Theo James is in Chicago visiting with his fiance's parents, who are played by Forrest Whitaker, and I don't know the woman's name who plays the mom. But basically, like, it's kind of a contentious relationship between this future father-in-law and the main character, which would be the Theo James played character. His name is Will. Basically, the fiance / daughter, fiance to Will and daughter to Forrest Whitaker, is in Seattle.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, like, Will's about to catch a plane to go home, and he's talking to his wife on FaceTime or whatever, and something happens, like an earthquake or something happens where, like, all communication is down.
Okay.
Like, there's some sort of an apocalyptic something.
Right.
He goes back to Forrest Whitaker instead and basically says, like, I can't get a hold of her, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And Forrest Whitaker says, okay, well, we need to go. We need to just go. So they drive. Forrest Whitaker and this guy start their journey from Chicago, Illinois to Seattle.
Okay.
To go find the fiance / daughter.
Okay.
That's the plot.
So it's a road trip movie between two people who don't like each other.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. They don't like each other, and there's a post-apocalyptic feel / whatever, something that they have to get through.
Okay. So it's not just, it didn't just affect Seattle, it affected like
the entire
everything.
country.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Out of nowhere.
Okay.
Now,
do we find out what that is, or is that just
that's
used,
what's interesting.
like, okay, so we do. We don't.
We don't.
You don't want to give it away?
I will. Fuck it.
Okay.
We don't.
So it's just used to set up the situation.
Correct. And it's
Okay.
funny because I was talking to someone last night, and you can mark this as spoilers or
Okay.
whatever.
Right.
So I was talking to someone last night who had seen it.
Okay.
And they were like, oh, it's the dumbest thing ever. It's like a complete waste of time to watch it because you never find out what the thing is.
But
that's not the point.
I was
though.
going to say, is that doesn't sound like the point of the movie.
It's not the point. But it's still not great.
Okay.
There's scenes in it that are very tense. I was impressed with some of the, like, it's one of those typical, like, post-apocalyptic things. They come across people on the road
Right.
who you can't trust,
Yep,
who
yep.
attack the car, and,
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
And then they come across a few people that they can, but it's like, can you trust them? So that's like where the conflict is. I mean, it's
Okay.
very cliche as far as that stuff's concerned. But I was entertained. There's a few bad scenes, like script-wise, like some of the conversations are a little,
Okay.
and then there's one actress who plays this little, like, Native American
Okay.
girl that they pick up along the way because she's, like, a mechanic and can work on the car,
Okay.
who I didn't think was very good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Kid actors are tough.
But overall, like, the main two characters are really likable, I thought.
Okay.
And the relationship between those two, how it grows as they get farther on this journey, is really good.
Okay.
It's got that, it's almost like a Lord of the Rings, I want to compare it to, where it's like
Okay.
they have this long, you know what I mean?
Right.
And their friendship grows from, like
Right.
Gimli and Legolas. you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Like they learn to appreciate each other because of somebody's got a skill, or, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or
Correct.
thanks for saving my life in that really weird situation.
Yes,
with the,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's free. If you have Netflix,
Right,
watch
right,
it. Yeah,
right.
there's worse things you could watch.
You didn't think it was like a waste of somebody's time?
No.
Okay.
But again, if I were sitting there, like, if I thought that the main conflict in the movie was figuring out how to stop this apocalyptic thing that's happening, but
Right.
to me that doesn't matter at all.
Right.
That's just the way I looked at the movie.
It's just the premise.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not the plot.
Yeah.
It's just there. It's there just like, okay, this is the MacGuffin, basically.
Right.
And this is what this real story is going to center around.
Right.
So yeah, it had some good moments in it, like kind of tender moments between the two main characters.
Right.
I really like Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't do the for the rebellion. He doesn't do that, does he?
No.
Okay.
That was a bad moment for him.
Yeah.
That movie.
Well, he kind of continued it in Black Panther.
Yeah.
He will now have the powers of the Black Panther.
No, he
Stripped away.
No, he was just like a normal, like,
Okay.
concerned dad who's kind of a hard ass.
Okay. Okay.
And I thought he played it well.
Good.
Like, yeah. So there you go. That's what I watched.
Okay.
I know our main event here. I have been.
I want to hear about one more thing before we get to the main event. I want to hear about your thoughts about Arrested Development.
Oh yes, I got to get into that. So a few
Jackson-
years back,
Yeah.
I started watching Arrested Development.
Okay.
Everybody told me it was fucking hilarious.
Right.
I stopped. I don't remember why. It wasn't because I thought it was bad, but I stopped like a quarter of the way through the second season, maybe
Right.
like 20 episodes in or something.
Okay.
So just recently it popped up again because I guess there's new ones.
Yes. Yeah, because that's what we're talking about again. Netflix and
Netflix,
streaming,
right.
reviving old shows.
I mean, by the way, bring Firefly back, please. But anyways.
I never watched Firefly.
Oh, God. Oh, you got to watch Firefly.
That's what every...
Oh, it's great. It's great.
You just pulled a cliche. Oh, you gotta watch.
You do. I mean, somebody told me that, and I watched it, and I was
Right.
like, "You're right."
Yeah,
It's
well,
just
that's
great.
a.
Did
that's
you
a
see
Joss-
Serenity?
That I did watch Serenity, but I hadn't seen Firefly.
Neither had I
So
when I saw
when
it.
I saw Serenity, I was like, it's fine. I didn't think it was great. Like, I was like, I bet you I'd appreciate this a hell of a lot more if I knew what the fuck was going on.
It's a good little sci-fi movie that is greatly enriched by knowing all the characters by watching the only season of Firefly.
Right.
It's a really good show, man. I actually loan that to you. I think I have that. But anyways, so yeah, Arrested Development.
Yeah.
First season, really funny.
Yes.
Second season, still really funny.
Yep.
Third season, it takes a massive dive. And this is before its Netflix revival, by the way.
Yeah,
I see why it was canceled.
Well, yeah, it was. It became a niche show, like, because it had been struggling basically most of its time on air.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that was sort of the nail in the coffin. What happened in the third season?
That was the one with Charlize Theron where she's a mentally retarded female.
right.
Mr. F.
Mr. F.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where I get a little irritated. We talk about things that are you're supposed to binge.
Yeah.
I feel like sitcoms are anti-binge because the misunderstandings,
Right.
which make up everything that happens
Yes.
in the entire series,
Yes.
start to get a little irritating.
They do.
And I'm sorry, how stupid is Michael? I mean, how dumb? He might be the dumbest character. Like, he's the linchpin of the family who's like trying to keep it all
Right,
together.
right.
He might be the dumbest character on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, he misses everything. You know, I sound like I'm harping on it, but I understand it is hilarious at times.
It is. Yeah, season 3 has its moments, but I don't think it ever coalesces into a great season.
No, and I would say...
I'd say season 4 is actually worse, though.
So I started 4, and I was trying to get through all of it before this episode. I couldn't even do it because it's like brutal to watch.
Well,
in
the
my
thing
opinion.
that sucks about it, there are, once again, there are funny jokes in it. But the thing that, like, I do like, there's a, what's his name? Michael Cera's character. George Michael. There it is. So George Michael and Michael are on the phone and they're trying to, like, get together, but they keep on coming up with lies.
See, I haven't seen this part yet.
Oh, okay. See, that was pretty good.
And I will note, I'm watching the remix because apparently Netflix knew that they fucked it up the first time and they reordered all of the shit in the 4th season and put it back on.
Oh.
So the only way to see 4 as it was released a few years ago is to go into the trailers and more section and watch it, which I didn't do. I'm just watching the remix section.
Wow, that's really weird. That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, so apparently I'm watching it in a different order than people watched it when it came out.
Right. And season 4 has its moments. George Sr. going through, and you're probably not here yet, but he starts going through hormone deficiencies.
Okay, I'm not there right now. He's at like a sweat lodge with his brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are some good jokes to be had because of the hormone thing.
There was one really good joke where he showed up like to the country club and Oscar's friends were all, his twin brother Oscar and all of his friends were sitting there like at the country club. And he's like, oh, you know, Oscar, I just don't have any friends. And he's like, oh, you're friends with us now or whatever. And I don't want these. It's pretty good. There are good. Yeah, it's funny. The characters are funny.
Buster is my favorite character.
So I'm a Job guy.
Job is great. Job is great. I'd say Job is maybe my second favorite character.
And the mom is amazing.
She's so great.
Yeah. So the characters are all good.
Yeah.
It's just...
I think my problem with the show is that it becomes all a little bit of been there, done that.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Because it's just finding new situations in which the family can be bad or terrible to each other.
Correct. Or like, I'm sorry, but like 3 seasons of Tobias making like, you know, closet
Tobias.
gay comments. It's funny, but it's like, how many of these do you have left? And to be honest, they start, you know, failing.
Yes.
More and more.
Did you... Oh, man. Okay, I don't know if you've gotten to this bit, but this is... See, it's weird. I'm remembering the jokes from the newer seasons, but did you get to where he gets a new license plate?
No, he's at the methadone clinic thinking he's at like some acting.
Yes. And and what's weird is I remember it fondly, but I also don't think I particularly liked it all that much either.
Bad. It's bad. I'm having trouble watching it. Maybe it's just I just need a break.
I think you might need a break because I do think it reminds me of like, okay, so a quote from like the actors from Seinfeld is that like these are terrible characters doing terrible things. I actually don't find the people on Seinfeld to be horrible people because sometimes there are some really bad things that happen around them that is totally like they have flaws. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't necessarily. George is a bad person.
And he's the best one.
Kramer's my favorite, but Kramer's got the grit. He's got the physical comedy.
Yeah.
But this show is filled with legitimately bad people.
It's true.
And I think at some point that starts to grate on you a little bit because you're like, can't you just fucking be decent? can't you just not lie in this situation? And that's where it becomes a little bit of...
They are all constantly lying to each other.
Yes, and that gets a little tiring if you binge watch the show, which is why, like, it being on Netflix, it's like, I had hoped that they would have used that as a format. Maybe I had hoped that they would have seen the flaws in binging.
Well, why don't they just release an episode every week for like 12 weeks?
Yeah, because doesn't
why can't
like
they?
Amazon or Hulu, don't they do that with certain shows?
I don't know. I mean, nothing I watch on streaming is like that.
Because there's a show I started telling you about, that Marvel show Cloak and Dagger.
Yes,
and that's a streaming show, but they release an episode once a week, just like they did with another Marvel show, Runaways.
Okay,
so yeah, why not do that? You know, because I don't think it just doesn't hold up to binging.
I agree.
Even the newest season, which I would say is better than 4. The first episode is one of, maybe not one of the best episodes, but it's definitely one of the best modern episodes.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll finish it, I'm sure, at some point. I like it enough.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it fills the void of a sitcom when really all you're left with for sitcoms is like moms and like
yeah, sitcoms they're
Big
dead.
Bang Theory.
The day of sitcoms are dead. I'm sorry.
I hate Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, it's not very good.
It's awful.
Yeah, I would
It's
agree.
insulting to nerds.
Oh, come on. Don't you love what's his name?
Sheldon Cooper.
Sheldon. Do you watch Young Sheldon?
No. I refuse.
All right.
2.5 Men. That was ugh.
See, the early 2.5 Men I thought was funny because I like Charlie Sheen.
Right.
But
I like Charlie Sheen too. I also hate what the guy Alan.
Jonathan Cryer.
Yeah, I hate his beta male. Just fucking hate his shtick. I hate it.
But yeah, so there you go. Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Probably just about 15 years too late.
Yeah.
But
hot take.
Yep, right. But yeah, so I've been bugging you to watch Tin Star. I haven't gotten any updates throughout. You watched the whole thing?
I binged the whole thing.
Okay, so let's hear your...
It binges pretty well. I liked it. I think it's a pretty good show. I don't love it.
Oh, wow. Oh, that hurts. That hurts.
It's got some great performances, though.
Yes.
There were a couple things that they're nitpicks. Like, they're just nitpicks.
Well,
like,
it wouldn't be a show if it didn't have some home nitpicks.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Pretty much. I should change my channel to the nitpicker. Just,
But yeah, so let's hear it.
Do you want me to give them a rundown on the plot, or do you want to just go straight into spoilers?
Let's do basic plot.
So
or I can do basic plot.
Yeah,
or,
go. You do basic plot.
So basic plot, and you can correct me since you've watched it more recently. Basic plot is you open up in this town in Western Canada.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small town that an oil company is moving into.
Yes.
And there is a new sheriff in town. Mm-hmm. And basically...
Literally.
Yes, literally. There's a new sheriff in town. I'm sorry, that wasn't an expression.
Yeah.
Played by Tim Roth. He moved his family there. He's British. And basically... he's the show kind of starts as like, okay, fish out of water type story. I got it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But something happens in the first episode.
Yeah.
And you slowly get information regarding this guy and realize that he is not who he seems to be.
Yes.
So that would be my...
I have a lot more positives than negatives. But like my overall feeling isn't super positive, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And I think this was the problem. I don't know. I said it was good for binging, but I'm not sure if it is, because it's an interesting story, but it also feels like it drags in certain bits.
Okay.
I can't place it, but I do know that there were times when I sort of pulled out the phone.
Oh, I couldn't. I see. This was one where I couldn't stop watching it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I know that you loved it.
Oh, it's amazing.
I think so. There are commercials for the North Star. Is that what it is? North.
Yep. Something like North Star Oil or something.
Yeah, something like that. And the commercials are funny, but they also, there was one time where one played and I was like, this feels like tonally like like kind of out of place because it's like the commercial is almost it's almost a parody. It is a parody. It's a parody of what these things are.
Right. So the whole way that the North Star is portrayed, I felt like was a little bit, over the top.
I loved the villain, the bald man.
Okay. See, what's funny is I liked him as a character, but I didn't like the performance.
Oh,
and
really?
he was the principal in Sicario who had the two girls in, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. But no, the character was good.
Yeah. He was really intimidating, and I think the accent actually really went along with that.
Okay, sure.
I did. I liked him. I liked Tim Roth is the star of it. He's
Yes.
Jim and or Jack.
Yes.
Loved that whole duality thing.
So
by the way.
that's what I think put it over the top for me was the portrayal of the main character's an alcoholic.
Yes.
And the way that they like portrayed that in the show was basically like this split personality where there's certain things that Jack, quote unquote,
Yes.
the alter ego drunk version of Jim,
Yes.
can do.
Yep.
That Jim can't do.
Yep.
So, there's no balance in this character. He is just
Yes.
one way or the other.
Yep.
And if he has one, he's going off to the races.
Yep.
And his wife knows that.
Yep.
And the way that their relationship in the show goes. The whole family I thought was really good. The family dynamic.
Yes.
And then do you want to call him a villain in the show?
Oh, he's absolutely.
Yeah,
a
I
villain.
suppose. Yeah.
I really liked him.
Is
He
Jack
was-
a villain though?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It's a story of villains. Just one happens to be a sheriff.
Right.
Yeah, I really liked the villain. What was the villain's name? I forget.
I don't remember his name.
Oh,
He's the young guy.
Whitey is
Whitey.
what.
Yeah,
Whitey is what he goes by. They did sort of the standard thing in revealing his backstory. Second to last episode?
So yeah, they've got an episode. See, that's another interesting thing. Is typically I'm not into that. There's if anybody watches Goliath, there's one of those episodes, or in the last Stranger Things, there's like one of these episodes is not like the others.
Yes.
It seems to be
Yep.
the new thing.
Yeah.
And typically I'm not a huge fan. Like the one in Stranger Things, actually, I heard a lot of people like bring it up like it was a bad thing. I didn't think it was that bad.
I thought it was the worst episode of the season, but
Okay.
it's still Stranger Things, so it's still pretty good.
I had no problem with it. But like in this one,
it just felt out of place.
in this one, there is an episode like that.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the season, where you get the full picture of
Yep.
what happened and how the bad guy knows the good guy.
Yep.
And I thought that episode was great.
I thought it was a good episode. I just thought it was a little standard sort of storytelling.
It was.
What was interesting to me, and it was something I don't know. It obviously didn't ruin it for me because it's a good show, and I would say it's filled with great performances. There are lots of
The
good things.
cinematography, like the nature,
Yeah.
all that
Oh
shit.
yeah, cinematography
Yeah.
was great. I'd say the music. This wasn't the negative I was going to bring up, but the music gets a little much just because it has sort of like this one sort of like main theme that's basically just like a tone.
Very repetitive.
And yeah, and
Yes.
it's overused, and that was the thing. That was like I said, they're nitpicks. Because like I'm watching it, I'm like, God, it's this song again, this thing
Sure.
again, and I'm still enjoying the scene, but I'm like, God, I wish that they would just yank this out. I don't need it because this is tense enough as it is.
I could see that.
God, I'm trying to remember what my negative was. Oh, it felt a little soap opera-y.
Explain.
So, you've got a man with dual personalities.
Sure.
You've got a wife who went into a coma. You've got secrets galore. You've got this sort of small town. It like oh God, what was that one? That was Twin Peaks.
Okay.
a
See, I
little-
never watched Twin Peaks. I probably should.
It's a weird fucking show,
I know.
man.
Well, it's David Lynch. I would imagine
It's
it
a
is.
weird show. I think it's nowhere near as good as people probably remember it as.
Okay.
But it's weird. But yeah, it had a little bit of that where it's like this small town. Everybody kind of knows each other. That was the other thing that I found a little weird is like the guy. So Jim moves in, and he seems to know people. Like he's calling people by their first names like right away in the first episode or second episode, first or second episode. And I'm
so the second episode,
like, how do
you're
you?
gonna have to now the first episode, you're gonna have to remind me because you just watched it. But isn't there a 1 year later thing that happens? Like in the second episode, he's been there a year, correct?
Has he?
Like,
oh wait. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
Like
I forgot about that. Okay, yeah.
so that would explain that.
Yeah.
But there's another character I wanted to bring up because I really like this actress is Christina Hendricks from Mad Men, the redhead.
Yep.
She plays for the oil company. She plays like a PR person who's trying to like get positive. You know,
she's an ex-journalist who used to give oil companies a hard time.
Right.
And now she's trying to change it from within.
Yes. So I liked her character.
I thought she was a straight-up bitch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, see, I thought she had a good arc by the end of the season. I mean, she's trying to do the right thing.
She's trying to do the right thing, but she wow. I mean...
Oh, yeah. At first, she's awful. Like there's a neat little scene, I think first or second episode where like they're having like a town hall meeting.
Yeah. And she turns it about into Jim not wanting the oil company to come in. It's like, really?
Right.
You manipulative bitch.
Yes. So very well done. And that's after she buys all of the terrible cookies from Jim's wife.
Yes.
Like trying to play, you know, this nice lady who's, you know, just here to help or whatever.
Even in that, though, she seemed fake as fuck, and the mom really seemed to pick up on it.
Yeah, I would agree. But no, what's interesting about her character, too, is like she's kind of your typical, she's trying to be like a strong, independent woman. The dad's watching the kids back home.
Yeah.
And the show kind of takes it in an interesting place that I don't feel like a lot of shows would take it, where it's like, yeah, maybe she should be at home with her children. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's the womanly person, you know, the motherly person who's trying to prove that she can go out and do all this shit, but it's like maybe like she doesn't necessarily, she kind of learns that this might have been a mistake to play Miss Independent Woman in this situation.
Right.
And I don't want to give away exactly what happens with that.
Right.
But it doesn't turn out well.
No, it really doesn't.
No.
Yeah, I really like the cinematography.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best parts of the show.
Yeah.
I don't know where they filmed it, by the way.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
Like, it almost looks like it's CGI. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like the trees and the hills and stuff. Yeah, they make a very big point of showing all that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because there's one of the themes of the show is like this oil company in this remote, beautiful place.
Right.
And what effect that would have on, you know. But then more importantly, it's a character study about a raging alcoholic who's kind of a psychopath.
Yeah, he's absolutely a psychopath.
He's amazing.
Yeah, Tim Roth is great.
His facial expressions and just like when he loses it in the show. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's one of my favorite parts, and I'd imagine most of the people listening to this are going to be people who have seen it because they'll probably have stopped by now because they'll either want to go watch it and not ruin it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I'm kind of underselling it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because it is very good. I think the feeling of it dragging, I think it's a show that you watch like 2-3 episodes, take a break.
Okay, see, I watch 6.
Oh, okay.
And then 4 the next day.
Okay.
That's how I do it.
Okay.
With a show like this.
Well, yeah.
Because especially at the beginning, the endings of the episodes are like, well, what the fuck? Like, the first episode, I'm like, well, wait a minute. What's the show?
Yeah.
Like, I thought, you know, I didn't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. So are we just going to have flashbacks? Is the whole season flashbacks? I got to see what the fuck what's going on here.
Right.
You know? But there's the part I wanted to bring up, speaking of Tim Roth being a badass in this, is there's a scene where he's at the bar and one of the bad guys comes to like take him,
you know,
pretending to be like, pretending to take him to rehab.
Yep.
And
your wife called me and I'm going to take you to rehab.
Oh, fucking crazy.
I could not believe that they thought that was a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
The bad guys, like
They underestimate the hell out of this guy the whole time. I think the only one who doesn't necessarily underestimate him is, oh God, I don't even remember the character's name, but there's the black dude, there's the main bad guy, and then there's the one who ends up dating the bar owner.
Yeah.
That's the only one who I feel like was like as nervous as he should be.
Right.
Most of the season.
Well, he was the wise one.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he
wise, quote unquote.
Well, yeah. He was the older one. He had experience. He knew to be wary.
Yep.
I mean, should we just get into spoilers?
Yeah.
Whitey is just this. He's just impetuous. You know, he's a cocky kid.
Bitter.
Yeah.
Yep. He's the one who has a personal vendetta. Most personal.
What's a little strange to me is, so he starts out the series and he seems flat out fucking nuts.
Yes.
And then as he starts talking to the girl, he starts feeling like he's normal, like more normal-ish.
Or maybe, he starts thinking like, oh, maybe I could like have a normal.
Right.
She is kind of balance, evening him out. So to speak.
It just felt a little strange.
Their relationship's a little strange. If I did have a nitpick with the show, it would be that I don't necessarily buy, like, especially at the end.
Yeah.
When he tells her, like, because this character killed her little brother.
Yeah.
Her baby brother, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
And when he reveals that, to her,
yeah,
like, I feel like it's done.
Yeah.
I don't care what rapport you've, built up. I don't care what story you told about how big of a monster her dad is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it'd be done. But then again, it's like, okay, well, I'm along for the ride. So
yeah, I didn't feel like the romance worked as well as it probably could have.
Yeah, it was weird, but I think they were trying to make it weird.
They were trying to make it weird. But I think in trying to make it weird, they didn't actually hit the sincerity level like the way that would have been effective.
Or they're just British, so we don't pick up on it.
Right, maybe, yeah.
I mean,
that was the other thing too, is like when I first started watching, I was like, God damn, these accents are thick as fuck.
They
are.
are.
I am having a hard time understanding this.
Isn't that funny how you start to like,
yep,
like you learn how to understand it
as you're watching?
Isn't that bizarre?
It is really weird because as it went on, and I can't say objectively if they're just doing it less or I picked up on it more.
And to me, like the terror, it was even worse. Like, I almost threw subtitles on for that at the first few episodes.
I almost did with Tin Star.
Right, I can imagine. Yeah, they've got the thick like Canadian.
The Canadians were fine. Like Tim Roth and his wife, though, they were throwing me off.
Oh, okay. God, Tim Roth is good. He needs to be in more shit.
Yeah,
he really does. I mean, he can play anything. And the way, like I said, he's an alcoholic. Their kid will go, their kid has been murdered as part of this plot. I didn't give that in the original plot synopsis because I feel like the ending of that first episode, it's kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, their kid's murdered and the wife is basically the wife ends up in a coma during this whole ordeal. And when she wakes up, she's like, are you, Jim or Jack? Who are you? And you're just kind of watching like, what the fuck's she talking about?
Yeah.
But basically he's an undercover agent from Great Britain.
Yep.
Who, as part of his job would go pretty overboard on the drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And, and it ends up that like Jack is needed to do what needs to be done to these bad guys in order to avenge the death of their son.
Yes.
Which it goes a little overboard. I will admit that. Some of the stuff he does is torture. I mean,
it's very obvious. It becomes very brutal.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
The last episode is, I would say, not for the faint of heart.
No.
It was brutal.
It was really brutal. Or when he which episode was it? The last episode with the bar owner and the yes. Whew.
Yeah, that was something else.
But it's funny because you're watching it and it's like, that's what I thought was good about the show too, is like you're watching it and you're like, okay, well, I don't like that he's doing this, but I kind of understand that he's doing this. and he's drunk.
As I'm watching it, I'm like, oh man, you're going too far. Like, very clearly you're going too far. Like, I get wanting revenge on the people who killed your son.
Yes.
But holy
well, at this point, he's just trying.
shit.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, his daughter's gone.
Yeah.
So that adds a whole other layer to it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, what's interesting is he knows that he can't do this. So he is basically drinking himself into the state of mind where he's going to be able to do what needs to be done.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting because he's basically sacrificing any good life that he has.
Yes. I liked the bit where he just basically sat down in the bar and just drank like a whole bottle of whiskey.
Copious amounts, yeah.
Yeah, ridiculous. I did like the bit where it just shows like how much of a monster he is, where he just goes, there's that biker who's doing coke in the bathroom.
Yes.
And he just goes and kicks the shit out of this dude for no reason.
Right, and then there's like all the kind of like humorous moments after that where like the biker gang like steps up and tries to start shit with him.
He's like, I'm bait and you're small
Yeah,
fry.
right.
Like, that was good.
The little card trick thing or whatever he's doing.
That was one of my favorite scenes, was when he said that to the bikers. I'm like, at that point, I did not know if he was drinking because he's drunk or if he was drinking with a purpose, and he was drinking with a purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really interesting to me.
He was a very scary character in this. Like, I thought, I mean, he was just terrifying.
Well, yeah, he goes, there's that couple that's fucking in the next room over at the hotel he's staying in, and did he kill that dude?
No, I don't think he killed him.
Because it sounded like a gunshot when I watched it. It was like, holy shit, dude.
But yeah, that was pretty funny. The way he treated the little cop guy, like he's got two officers that he works with who are like dating each other.
Oh, I really liked the female.
I thought that was good. Like all that stuff. I did get a little irritated with the bug in his office.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, come on, find that fucking thing. You know.
Did he ever? I don't think he did.
No, but it didn't matter at the end because the guy, you know.
Loved that scene where he goes to fight that dude, and then they just are like, all right, so let's go and have a cappuccino and talk.
Yep,
like,
that was good.
That was good. I was like, man, who writes a scene like this?
What a weird character that guy was.
Yeah, he was weird.
He's the meat guy.
I'm watching and I was like, oh, this is some good storytelling. He's bloody. He's got an apron on. Why is he bloody? And he's got a lamb or whatever on his kitchen. I was like, holy fuck, dude, you're extreme. Like,
he's a very strange guy.
Yeah.
And then Tim Roth takes this character who is like, alopecia bald.
Yeah.
I mean, and dunks his head
in blood.
Yeah. and could kill him.
Yes.
And doesn't.
And then they just have a cappuccino afterwards and talk about what's going on in the town.
Right. And then you're like, oh, well, so is it settled then between these two? No, there's more conflict later.
Yeah.
But
for
yeah,
now, like, it's so weird. It was so weird that Alopecia Man just decided that, like, no, this is fine. Like, we kind of kicked the shit out of each other.
Right.
You wanted to blow off some steam, I guess. This is fine.
Yeah,
you almost killed me.
That was an interesting scene.
But it was really interestingly written. And normally, I think if it had been written worse, I would have had a serious problem with it.
Okay.
Because it's like, it makes almost no sense why they just stop and Alopecia's like, all right, we're fine. You attack me in my home, we're fine.
Didn't he get, like, what kind of information did he get out of that conversation? Because basically, wasn't it like, okay, stand still, we've settled who's going to win this fight now, just tell me what I need to know.
He had to ask if the black dude that he killed was hired by Alopecia Man.
Yes, got it. Yep.
And he finds out he wasn't.
Right.
So,
Alopecia Man. Let's just get into the ending. We're about to wrap up here, I think. The ending, it ends with basically Tim Roth murdering the kid who killed his son.
Yes.
Who he kind of helped raise.
Yeah.
So basically the bad guy in this is this he's like a teenage kid who, during one of Tim Roth's last operations, he was a little boy and living with his mom who was mixed up in this like gang,
Yes.
And Tim Roth abandoned this kid when
Yeah.
he was younger and abandoned the mom who ended up like in basically a mental patient
Yeah,
somewhere.
she tried to drink herself to death, and
Yes.
she ended up with wet brain.
So basically the kid is out for revenge for what Tim Roth did to his family.
Yes.
You know, quote unquote family. It wasn't a very
Oh, it was a
good
bad family.
but yeah, so it ends up like the bad guy is you know dating Tim Roth's daughter in the show, and the daughter kind of like defends the bad guy. It
Yeah.
doesn't kind of. I mean, she does. She
Yeah.
sides with him.
Yep.
In the end.
What I found interesting about that scene was, so they've gone out to this cabin where they are, and Tim Roth starts walking towards his daughter, and he's got his gun pointed out at her, and she's got a shotgun pointed at him.
Right.
And Tim Roth could hide behind his wife, because his wife doesn't want him to do this.
Yes.
She doesn't want him to kill the kid. She did initially, but she doesn't now. And Tim Roth makes a point of not standing behind his wife, and Whitey, like the little bitch that he is, hides behind the girl.
Right. He is a bitch.
And I'm like, you don't love her, because if you truly believe that Jack is a monster.
Well, and he's terrified of Jack. Like
Yes.
deep down, he is just petrified of him.
Yep.
You know.
So to me, I was like, it said a lot about the character in that moment.
Right. Well, it's just funny too. You mentioned like obviously Tim Roth isn't going to stand behind his wife or whatever. Just the way that he walks towards, it's like almost like a horror movie character.
Yeah,
I mean,
oh, yeah.
he has a look on his face like just empty.
Yeah.
He's like a fucking monster.
Yep.
And he's coming for this kid.
Yeah, it's not like he's tired, and it's not like it's just like it's just very matter of fact.
He's had it.
This is just the way it is. Just come out here. It's inevitable. Just do
Right.
it.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I thought was interesting too. I feel like in a lesser show or a more average show, there would have been like a final change of heart moment.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, I can't do this. I
Right.
need to get my life together. But no, this season does not leave you off like that at all.
Right.
I mean,
I'll tell you what makes me a little bit sad, because he kills Whitey. And I like the way he did it, and it showed that Whitey, I guess, was a little bitch in that moment, but he also was like, well, I'm not going to have his daughter get killed.
yes.
And so he's like, remember, always go on two, and that was something that they set up earlier in
Yep.
in the flashback episode. And so he pushes the daughter out of the way, and Whitey gets shot. The thing that makes me a little sad about Whitey getting shot and you know, Jack shooting one of his deputies and killing the black and just being really quite terrible at covering his tracks I was like, so there is no possible way for him to go back to a life of law.
We're going to find out. But yeah, it sure doesn't seem like it. I mean,
I guess you could do the temporary insanity plea, but I'm sitting here, I'm
yeah,
like,
but you're never going to be the sheriff again. Like,
exactly.
yeah,
And
it's
so
interesting. Is he going to have to? Are they going to have to run off again? Like,
yeah. And
or-
so that aspect makes me a little sad, because I'm like, I liked him being
Yes.
the sheriff.
yeah. So did I. He was. I mean, he originally didn't mean any. Like he
Right.
didn't mean for any of this to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
But also at some point he decided to take vengeance versus taking justice.
correct.
And so, you know,
Well, he knew he couldn't get one without doing the other. Like he knew that if he drank, he was gonna fucking, you know,
Yeah.
who the fuck knows what's gonna happen,
Right.
And I'm gonna go off the deep end or whatever,
right.
But I mean, he also had his wife basically like, you know, bringing booze to him,
Yep.
saying, "Look, I'm sad. I have this hole in my heart that is not being filled."
Yep.
And the only way, or at the time, she thought, we just need to get these bastards. So here you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I hated the whole, well, I shouldn't say hated, but it really made me frustrated. Like the first time he cheated on his wife, I was like, all right, like,
Was that the waking up on the
Waking-
Native American? Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, okay, one, obviously not a fan of cheating. I'm a decent person, but I'm like, maybe it's okay. Like maybe it's also a little weird because it's like your wife is in a coma right now, so it's like you really look like a piece of shit.
Well, I mean, he's blackout drunk at that point. I mean,
right.
See, so that doesn't bother me.
But I've been blackout drunk, but I've never like.
Well, that's fine. That's you. But this isn't a perfect person.
Right. Well, I'm not a perfect person.
Not even. This isn't a good person.
Yeah, that's
necessarily.
Yeah, that was the thing. Is I was like, oh man, because I want to like him. He's your protagonist,
right?
And you do like him, but you like him because he's interesting and he's a monster.
Well, you like him. I mean, there's people you meet in life who you might not like certain things about them.
Right.
But overall, I mean, I don't think that he is a bad person per se, but when he drinks, he's a monster.
I was going to say
that's what's interesting about him, in my opinion.
Well, and see, I think that, and we can have a talk, but we can have a talk about this if you think it's interesting enough. The idea of becoming a different person when you're drunk. I feel like it's an interesting thought, but I think it also opens up the doors to potentially. See, this is just narrative implications on the real world. It's not really a reflection on the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, is it a good thing to imply that you're a different person when you drink, so therefore you're not responsible?
No, you're still responsible as far as like the law is concerned, and people can still hold you responsible. But I mean, it is factually accurate that there are. And, full disclosure here, I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober for over 5 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I mean, it's factually accurate that alcohol affects different people different ways. So you might not understand what happens to Jim when he drinks. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if you're his wife, you still have every right to be pissed and leave him or whatever.
Yep.
But... I mean, I get where people are coming from. It's like people call it a disease, but like if you get cancer, you can't just like put cancer away.
Right.
You can't dump cancer down the fucking sink and leave it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, that's the age old question, right?
Right.
It's like, what is is it an excuse or is it a legitimate reason for acting the way they do? And I would say it's somewhere in between.
Right.
So,
well, because I remember when me and my girlfriend first saw, what was it? Oh God, The Hangover. She was really not happy with how some of the characters acted, because she was really under the impression that when you drink, it's just you doing things that you would do. It just takes away your inhibitions. It's you doing things that you would like to do, but you tell yourself you can't. And then it becomes the real question of, is that the real you, or are the inhibitions you?
Well, I think
that
what
disturbed her.
What makes humans different than other animals, I feel like, is like we have the ability to have those inhibitions.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I'll tell you what, the moral compass of human beings is probably a hell of a lot different than it was 500,000 years ago, or 200,000 years ago, or whatever, when they were cavemen.
Right.
And fuck, who the hell knows what it was like? But I mean, yeah, I think to an extent, it is true. Like if you want something, like you still want it when you're not drunk,
right?
But you stop yourself from taking it or doing something wrong to take it.
It's just a really interesting idea about identity. Are you your inhibitions or are you your desires? That's a really weird thing. I think a
good person has those desires, but they're not going to do whatever it takes to take them for themselves because they're not selfish. So I think it's a combination of the two.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's why you look at Jack and you're like, or Jim, is Jim a good guy? Because he wants to do them, but he won't act on them. But then he also makes the conscious decision to put himself in the position to drink to do those.
Right. Well,
to do those
and
things.
She puts him in that position.
Exactly. Well,
that's what's interesting too.
They both put them. Yeah. So it's like, God, I want to like Jim and despise Jack, but there's a part of me that's like, but you made a choice.
It's funny. I like them both. I'm sorry. I think they're both awesome.
I mean, well,
They're good characters. Yes.
Characters, yeah. But they're obviously not good. Like, I would not want to be either of their friends.
I would not want to be that daughter.
No.
That's for certain.
Yeah.
And actually, the wife is kind of an asshole, too. It's like, there's not...
Yeah.
Like, the daughter's probably the best person.
Oh, my God. The first episode was super funny where they're both swearing in front of the 5-year-old. And he keeps on going like, she said ass. And he's like, yeah, but she did, but she didn't mean to say it. And, and then he's just like, fuck off and piss. And
it's funny
you
because
said fuck.
They're playing like a family trying to be normal.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And he's really trying in that first episode.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then it's just like, they get the fuckets. The movie pass. Fuck it. Yeah. They get that.
Those scenes with the little kid, man.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah.
You're like, this kid is so fucking adorable. Oh, and the kid was pretty good, too, for being probably right around 5.
He was like the age that the Pet Sematary kid was, maybe a little older than the Pet Sematary kid was in that movie. Yeah.
So, I was impressed. Oh, the bald man, a random thought. He reminded me of Stephen King villain.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, the whole story is very Stephen King-esque.
It is very Stephen King-esque.
Yes.
But I do think it has a little bit of the soap opera.
Yes, I would agree. Too. Yeah, what's the coma?
The coma and the secrets and the small town. And
the small town.
And the dual identities.
Little conversations. You've got the woman who, like, there was the one woman who they took and killed who, like, knew that one secret. I can't remember what she knew.
I can't remember.
Well, there's the one Native American woman who saw that woman get taken or whatever.
Oh,
it was
she like did a study that showed that like something that they did was terrible.
Oh, yes.
And then she was totally discredited by, quote unquote colleagues.
Yes.
Which we're winding down here, but one thing I did want to say was I did like the representation of big business coming in and ruining a small town.
Yeah, there wasn't very much nuance there.
It wasn't nuanced at all.
No, but everybody was very...
And I understand that it's preaching to, what I like to see. But I also believe that some of that stuff is very, very possible.
No, well, yeah, sure. A lot of it's possible, but there would be good people that work for this company. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And they do not represent that at all.
No. So
like they act like when the Mad Men lady like turns on them, sort of, that like one person finally saw the light.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just a bunch of people that like need work.
Yeah,
so.
But yeah, I mean, I did like that whole, because I mean, it is something that I think we think about, like especially in economic times that we're in now. How do small towns survive?
Right. Well, I mean, there's small towns out there that probably need a company like this.
Right.
And there's small towns out there that are probably destroyed, or little small businesses that are destroyed by companies like this. I think it's
I found that interesting. I did. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of it. It was just weird that it just ended up being, it was like, God, maybe if they had tightened up like maybe 9 episodes or 8 episodes,
I'm excited to see where it goes. It's coming back. So
good.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll check out the next season.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's it for today, huh?
That's our special TV episode.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Go check out Tin Star, even though we just kind of ruined it for you. Yeah. Hopefully you stopped listening and went and checked it out.
Yeah, go and check out My Hero Academia also.
And actually, yeah, so next week, Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.